Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm Matt Connarton. And to my right, of course, you're not Gary.
I'm not Gary.
Do you know what? Do you know?
I'm channeling Gary.
I promised his family I'd keep an eye on him.
We are.
All right, good. So you know where he is?
Yes.
All right. So we have the Honorable John Heichel.
Hi, how you doing?
Instead of
Manchester?
Gary. And John, of course, I believe, and we've established this prior, you hold the record. For appearances on this show.
And look, now you've been sitting in Gary's chair.
It's like you've been promoted. You've gone from guest to guest host.
Wow,
it's amazing. Right. You're moving up in the world. How's that feel?
It feels great, especially I didn't get a pay raise, but it's still great to be here.
I didn't get one either. No.
Okay, well,
maybe you can put in a good word for me with the big guy.
I will.
I don't mean Gary. I mean
no, the big guy.
The big guy.
The
yes.
big guy. Yes.
And we also have with us Gus Breton, who's did I get your last name right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, and of course you've been on the show also many times at this point.
Yeah.
And Mark Warden and Dave Narby. All right, so I got everybody's names right. Awesome, doing pretty well.
You did great.
Thank you.
Nice job, Matt. Thank you.
All right. Well, John, we're going to let you drive the train here because I have no idea what we're talking about, but I'm gonna listen, and I'll probably jump in and ask questions and maybe make the occasional smart-ass remark like I do.
Great. Well, we have the guests that we have tonight are not only close friends. We are involved in some really serious issues of the people of the state of New Hampshire. And we talk about redress.
Yeah.
I'm very involved with redress along with Gus. We're going to get Mark involved in redress here. Mark is a fellow legislator. Dave Narby knows his way around the money issues and things. And Mark is going to be talking about Bitcoin tonight.
Yeah, that's good. I want to learn more about that. I'm hearing just bits and pieces of information about it, but I don't really know too much about it yet. So
we're going to find out a lot about it. I mean, we want to know about the whole thing about money. We're all we need it. We got to have it. I mean, it's that thing. It's something that we got to have our whole lifetime, but nobody knows how to get it or how to keep it, or not nobody, but very few.
Right.
So we have a hard enough time figuring out what to do with currency, let alone Bitcoin. And now we have a new thing to introduce, but it's pretty exciting. And I know folks. Mark's going to tell you all about it because he's right up on that subject. So. What would you like to talk about first?
We can jump right into Bitcoin if you.
Let's go right into Bitcoin.
Because I'm really curious about this.
Yeah,
red hot.
Bitcoin is very hot right now, and what it is, for those who haven't heard about it, is a digital currency.
Okay.
Also known as an alternative currency. So people are buying goods and services and trading using Bitcoin, and Bitcoins are held on your computer or on your cell phone, your smartphone, or even on paper. But you see what you have is keys. It's highly safe and, for the most part, anonymous, using encryptions and very highly encrypted codes. The original idea was to mint no more than 21 million of these Bitcoins. All right, so there's a cap on it. Unlike the Federal Reserve, or U.S. dollar, European central bank, unlike the central banks that just print forever ad infinitum, there's a capacity of these of the maximum 21 million. Okay. So that's going to keep from runaway inflation happening with Bitcoins.
Okay.
And the idea is it's not sanctioned by the government. However, the Congress did recently meet and approved it as being legitimate. It's not fraudulent. It's not necessarily, it's not illegal by any stretch.
It wasn't necessary for them to approve it in order to legally use it, but...
No, people have been using it all along.
Okay.
Really, people can use anything they want as a medium of exchange.
Sure.
So the idea behind Bitcoin is to have a valid alternative to the U.S. currency or any currency. And the nice part is it's universal. It's digital, and it's based on mathematical logarithms that have produced these little by little. And so people can use them around the world, and it goes out to 8 decimal places after the period. So it's highly fractional, and you can divide it up into very small amounts to buy a cup of coffee, for example, for $1.50, or you could buy a house for it. I'm in the real estate business, and currently I just put 2 houses on the market listed where the sellers are accepting Bitcoin.
Okay, wow, no kidding.
Wow.
Very interesting.
That's nice. I like that.
And
Well,
you're seeing it be more widely accepted all the time. In fact, in New Hampshire, there's sort of a hotbed of activity with Bitcoin. There are a number of businesses and service providers that accept Bitcoin payment.
Okay. Now, is there resistance to this as well? Is there kind of an anti-Bitcoin?
A lot of Bitcoin hate. I've been following Bitcoin actually since it began. I mean, I've got a Bitcoin wallet, and I tried mining years ago. I think it was 2004, I think. Was that when Bitcoin?
Oh, back when, yeah.
Yeah, it was 2006. Some people just hate Bitcoin. And it's coming from interesting places, too. And you have people who hate Bitcoin who actually hate gold as well. There's a lot of people who are very emotionally invested in this working. And the issue with any currency really is accepted. There's a theory of money, and that money, currency, is most valuable when it's the most widely held, which is the reason why the dollar is still the reserve currency of the world. Why it's so continues to have value is because it is broadly held. So the big hurdle for Bitcoin that I can see right now is first going to be getting acceptance, which seems to be happening very fast, especially in China. You know, if the reason why it's been going parabolic, if you've been following the chart, and that's going to result in a lot of very unhappy people because parabolic charts always result to the downside. But I don't expect it to completely collapse.
Can you clarify that? What do you mean when you
parabola
say
is a mathematical function that it begins to go up twice as high as it does go forward in time.
Okay.
So for every unit of time forward, it'll actually double or triple or quadruple.
Okay.
And it'll continue to do that exponential function 2, 4, 6, 8, 16, 32, 64.
Okay, gotcha.
The problem with that is that those types of moves are usually not sustainable. Does that mean Bitcoin is going to crash and burn? I doubt it, because there's a limited number of them. The potential upside to Bitcoin is perhaps unlimited as far as priced in dollars, because, of course, there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoins, many of which can't even be used now. I mean, people, something that has begun to, I saw this a while back, but if you lose your Bitcoin wallet and you lose the cryptographic keys to your wallet, those coins are lost forever.
Okay.
So there's a fair number of Bitcoins which were minted, especially back in the early days, that people have just simply neglected and forgotten what their keys were. So those Bitcoins can never be used. They show up in the float, the number of Bitcoins out there,
Yeah.
but they'll never trade hands. That makes the remaining Bitcoins even that much more valuable.
Interesting.
So there was one fellow, he's a hedge fund manager, he was estimating up to 30% of existing coins. The other interesting thing, too, is that it's a cryptocurrency. Which means you have to solve cryptographic problems in order to generate these Bitcoins. And it's only one of many. There's another one that's hot on its heels called Litecoin. And then after that, there's Purecoin, Novacoin, Junkcoin. I mean, there's about 15 of them out there right now. And it's amazing to me. I went and looked at their market caps. I mean, Bitcoin's up to a few billion. I think it is 8 billion. Litecoin was up to, I think, 111 million. And then there were several other ones that had caps of like 5 to 10 to 15 million. You know, so there's actual money out there.
Okay.
You know, that you could exchange these for. It's not like they're on, like, there was one, I think Junkcoin has a float of 5,000. So that would be what I would term extremely speculative.
Now, the resistance to this, where does that come from? Why is it the inertia of just people don't want to let go of what they know,
It's complicated.
try something new?
The dollar, paper money is simple.
Yeah.
Gold and silver are simple.
Yeah.
Tangible things are simple. This, you have to be computer literate.
Okay.
And then you have to trust to the cryptography behind it enough to actually use it.
Okay.
And
But you know, some big players have already said they're behind it. In fact, just this
Winklevoss
week,
twins.
and you'll remember this week, famously Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Atlantic Airlines,
Yes.
and now Virgin Galactic, said he will accept Bitcoin for payment on his spaceship in outer space.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So the biggest danger to Bitcoin I can see is that they'll make it illegal. They'll legislate against it because it is a real threat to any central bank because the currency is now supranational. It's out of control of any government. So
Okay.
I expect that probably what will happen at some point in the future is that some government will clamp down on it, and unfortunately it'll be very easy to make Bitcoin illegal to use. If you're going to try to use it on the web, you say, we accept Bitcoin. Okay, that's easy enough to find. You could shut them down in a hurry. And then you're going to be left using it as an underground person-to-person currency where you'll have to do the exchanges in person, You have to travel overseas to be able to use them if you wanted to use it outside the country. So the problem of translating the bitcoins into an actual physical good that you would use could become very difficult
Sure.
at that point.
Is there a
Right.
way that the Federal Reserve could take it over? Could they? I mean, is there a way that they
No.
could? No, I don't know.
No, there's actually no chance.
That
And this is
wouldn't- that
funny. I
wouldn't put
laughed.
them out of business, for instance.
I laughed. He said that the U.S. that if the Senate approved Bitcoin, and I'm like, it's like they had any choice in the matter. It's like,
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty much the horse is
Right.
out of the barn in that case.
Yeah.
No, the
Over the
government
hell.
can try to regulate it, but it's not backed by the government. It's all privately done in what's called peer-to-peer transactions.
Okay.
And anybody can mine it. He mentioned earlier about mining the Bitcoin, and the idea is that they use that term because just like mining gold or silver or any precious metal, it takes a lot of resources, a lot of money, energy to dig these things out of the ground in mining. Well, with the Bitcoin, it's a very complex mathematical algorithm, as I mentioned, and it takes a lot of computing power to create one Bitcoin. And the first ones were relatively easy to create using a computer program. And as more and more are out there, the way this algorithm is built, it gets increasingly more difficult to mine up to one Bitcoin. And just so people out there have an idea of what it's worth, a year and a half ago, one Bitcoin was worth about $10.
Okay.
Then it spiked to $50, $100, and back to $50, then $100 and $200. But today it's
over 1,000.
$1,000 for one Bitcoin.
Well, maybe not right
Wow.
now, but
It's
did
been
pop
hovering between
over.
$800 and $1,000 for one
Okay.
Bitcoin.
Okay.
So I know quite a few people right here in New Hampshire who have hundreds of thousands of dollars, and a couple guys who are Bitcoin millionaires.
Yeah.
And actually, you can exchange them for dollars. There are exchanges that will
Wow, no
exchange
kidding.
them. Yeah, give you a check or cash.
Is there any coin shops that will take them for silver, for gold, for other?
Not that I know of, but I know a lot of people that individually are trading silver, other commodities for your Bitcoins. Absolutely.
It's exciting.
It's going to
Yeah.
be very
I mean,
interesting.
yeah.
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 I mean, you think about countries that we don't like. For instance, Iran, North Korea, and Cuba, and they are the three countries left that are not part of the central bank. So I'm wondering how this plays out in a global kind of way, because there are powers that go to war over these kind of things when they're
Nobody,
when
the
their
governments
money's
don't like their
threatened.
power to be challenged, and they certainly don't like anybody challenging their monopoly.
Right.
They have a monopoly status, particularly the U.S. as the strongest currency in the world, right? They don't want any way that might soften that. But that's the beauty of this, is it's just an alternative and a real competitor to the U.S. dollar. And it's universally accessible, and it's universally understood. So I think it's great. I'm all about free markets, whether you're shopping at the grocery store or buying a new car,
Right.
or watching your favorite television station. I think we all need more choices in everything, including currencies.
Can you give me just an idea for the viewers out here that's watching this, because not everybody understands algorithms and can fathom what you're talking about. It's not. It seems like something that was created abstractly, but it's kind of in existence, and it's
The math is deep.
the math is
It
deep.
is.
So let's get back to the shallow pool. And you need your car fixed, and you come to your,
You can plug your shop. Go ahead.
You go up, down, or up.
Let's
That's
say-
where I go.
let's
Hey,
take-
Marco.
That's a great shop.
let's say you come to Uptown Auto
You've
Repair.
you've used them, right?
Yes.
I've actually never
so
used
you
a Bitcoin.
come
I have.
as a consumer. You need your car fixed, and what do I do as a business owner? What do I do? How do I take it? How do I negotiate the price? How do I figure out what that job? I know what that job is in fiat currency, dollars, but I don't know what it is in bitcoins. How do I?
I'll try to keep it
how do we
simple.
figure this?
And we can't fully explain all the technical aspects behind it, but from a user, all they have to do is come into your shop and scan a barcode. You can publish one of these QR codes, right? You can make that yourself,
Yeah.
which is just a link to your Bitcoin wallet. And a Bitcoin wallet is kind of like an account number or a destination for somebody to send Bitcoins. But that wallet isn't at your bank. It's on your either personal computer or your phone or wherever you're holding this virtual wallet. And so they scan the barcode or the QR code and put in how many Bitcoins the service call cost and hit send, and you have it a minute later. Now, the next question is, if you're a business owner, you can't go buy your parts or pay your rent in Bitcoin.
Right.
But there are a lot of service providers who will accept Bitcoin.
Okay.
Landscaping services, snowplow services, a lot of personal services. Also, now with Bitcoin, you can go on an exchange and buy gift cards to Amazon, to Target, to Walmart, to a lot of places. So it's mainstream already.
Yeah.
What's
Moving
what's
fast. That's good.
What's the IRS going to do about trying to get? Because if John accepts Bitcoin, then trades it off with a landscaper, they're gonna want a piece of their
Good
pie.
question.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
good
it's-
question.
the
Do they get a
Bitcoin-
piece of that Bitcoin
Yeah,
pie?
Yeah, they will. And the thing is, a lot of people believe, or they're under the impression that Bitcoin is anonymous. It's not. It's not anonymous at all. It was difficult if you're not technically apt, but they've figured it out. Every transaction that's ever been made in Bitcoin and the addresses involved are available to be searched. It's part of what they call the blockchain, which is just big long string of letters and numbers that identifies all of the transactions that have been made. And all of this exists in the distributed network. So actually your wallet, you don't even need a physical copy. I mean, you might keep the keys on your computer, but in theory, you could have a Bitcoin account, destroy all physical evidence, memorize the keys in your head, and then you can get to any computer. If you can get a Bitcoin client up and running, you can enter that big long string of what looks like gibberish in, and you'll have access to your coins. But they'll be able to track every transaction through Bitcoin.
Okay.
Now, there are some anonymizing services out they call coin mixing services. Zero Coin, I believe, is what it is, which would allow you to make an anonymous purchase or transaction using Bitcoin. You can also create pretty much an infinite number of wallets. So you could swap from wallet to wallet. You could have a billion wallets out there. It wouldn't be a problem under the system.
Okay.
But so is there potential for tax evasion? Yes, more so than with cash. I doubt it. I think the big danger for Bitcoin is that at some point it'll become such a threat they'll just try to outlaw it, and then probably you'll see the value of Bitcoin drop at that point. But I don't expect it'll ever go to zero because so many people are so enthusiastic about it.
Is there any kind of central controlling authority with Bitcoin, like
Nope.
you have the Federal Reserve with currency? No.
No,
Okay.
it's a distributed currency.
Yeah.
So as long as there's an internet, there could always be a Bitcoin.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
No central authority.
Wow. It's mind blowing.
Yeah. The thing is,
really is.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to give odds on Bitcoin as far as its survival is concerned, but it's the first one, and it's really good. I mean, it's really impressive what they did. And if for some reason that gets shut down, I have a very, very strong suspicion that entrepreneurs in the market will come up with a solution that solves all the problem with Bitcoin, and then they won't be able to shut that down.
Right.
I mean, it's been my opinion that the market will always find a way. Single most powerful force in human history, everyone acting in their own self-interest.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, one of the problems we're facing is the Federal Reserve is buying lots of toxic debt. Everybody wants to audit the Fed. The Fed's, it's just a matter of time before they print themselves into extinction.
See, I think when we audit the Fed, that will end the Fed. Because
that
they
will
will see
do it.
When?
just how bad it
And
is.
so, we're going to be left with no currency. Okay, money and currency are very different, but we're going to be left with no currency. The Federal Reserve note is not redeemable in gold and silver anymore. Therefore, it is no longer legal tender. It is not money. It is only currency, just like Bitcoin.
Backed by the full faith and promise that we won't print too much of it and give it to the banks.
Backed by the military complex.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
And if
So-
you really get on our nerves, we'll come over and take your stuff.
So, eventually we're going to be up against a brick wall. We're going to need something. And it's not going to be that far in the future. I don't know when. Dave was living in Peru when the economy collapsed over there. He saw a
no
lot of that
kidding. Wow.
firsthand,
Yep.
stuff going on.
I saw the currency change from a unit of 100,000 to 1,000, and they changed the name. And it was
Really?
Yeah, I was
Wow.
17 at the time, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Holy. In the meantime, they're blowing stuff up here, and then they blew up the English school, and they blew up a bank, and I'm like, what's going on?
Wow.
26 years later, I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was, quite something.
Yeah.
And I was fine because I had dollars to exchange, but there was a lot of crime, and there were a lot of kids begging in the streets, and it was pretty tough for everyday Peruvians.
Yeah.
So getting a grasp on alternative currencies would provide a pretty good buffer for us.
Right.
In our state, the Berkshires in Massachusetts, they have Berkshires. I'm not familiar enough with it to explain what they're doing, but they have their own currency based on silver. And then out west, there's farmers that are willing to take absolutely nothing but silver.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
No kidding.
Wow.
Yeah, and so this is coming to a head. I mean, a lot of people see the writing on the wall. So what can be done? What can our legislators do to promote and secure some alternative currencies, whether it's Bitcoin or otherwise?
You teed that up so nice. Can I go ahead and
Take a swing.
just so if whoever's listening, I actually traded for about 5 years as an independent trader, and then I worked very briefly on Wall Street, just 6 weeks, just to kind of prove that I could get in that door if I wanted to. And
Yeah.
I am so totally not a Wall Street guy, but it was really interesting though because it presented, I think, gave me a good idea of the mentality of the type of people who are involved in it, and their thinking is right to here. They don't look any further ahead than right there. It's
Yeah.
just where's the next
trade.
next hot trade coming from,
Yeah.
and they're going to launch this over the cliff like Thelma and Louise with a jet-assisted rocket strapped onto the convertible. If you look back in history to the Great Depression, there were a lot of what they call scrip, which would circulate, and cities would issue their own scrip just as a way of keeping the local economy going. The one that comes to mind to me that was the most successful was an experiment that was done in Wargl, Austria, and they issued the currency. I believe they called it the Wargl. And what that was actually the opposite of sound money, if you can believe this, but it worked to keep people employed. What they did is they backed the currency with a certain number of I think they were florins in Austria, or I don't know what they were using at that point in time, marks perhaps, I think they were marks. So they had a certain number of marks, say 10,000, then they issued this currency against it. But it had a time premium on it, which means if you wanted to hold that currency more than a month, you would lose 5% of your value. You'd have to go get a stamp and pay 5%, put that on the note, and then you could spend it again. So the incentive was there, if you got paid for a job, to go right out and spend that money.
Right.
So what happened is with a very small amount of base money within their local economy, it circulated extremely fast. And they went from like 90% unemployment to near full employment. The streets got cleaned up, power came back on, sewer and the water was fixed, and things were going along so fast that they actually started to pay their taxes early. Because it had nothing to do with the money. They had to spend the money.
Right.
So it came back and it
Wow.
was like, hey, this is great. And the experiment was working famously. And the Central Bank of Austria noticed it and stepped in and squashed it.
No kidding.
Yeah, no kidding. But that's that worked.
Yeah.
And it's actually not complicated at all. It doesn't
Right.
require any computer savvy. It just requires having a certain amount. We could use any currency out there. We could even use airline miles, exchangeable for airline miles. But as long as the currency is out there and it allows for people to exchange their labor, or if there's goods in the land, like if someone's a farmer, and it would allow people to stay employed.
Okay.
And I mean, New Hampshire seems to be doing a lot better than a lot of other states because I think it's probably got one of the more sound governments, if not the most sound government states. Good job, guys. But if we were to issue this as a complementary currency
Yeah.
to the Federal Reserve's currency, it would definitely help to improve life of the people in the state of New Hampshire.
Has anything been done here legislatively to advance this within the state, or is it even necessary to do that in order to make this work?
There was a sound money bill put in by Henry McElroy in 2004, but it never got enough traction to get going.
Okay.
And that was written by Dr. Edwin Vieira. So it's really time to revisit that issue. But I'm not aware of anything that's on the books now.
No, I think we've had in the past here in New Hampshire some rumors of doing a bill to make gold and silver as legal tender officially for all debts in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And they did that out in the state of Utah a number of years back, and I don't think it ever got passed. I don't think we really need to do that. As far as Bitcoin and other alternative currencies, I think the best thing we can do is say as a legislature that New Hampshire law enforcement will not enforce the feds coming in here and trying to arrest people who are doing something that we don't find illegal in New
Okay.
Hampshire. I
Yeah.
prefer that approach.
Make the feds do their own dirty work for a change?
Yeah.
What a concept.
We could do that statute, or we could do that through redress. We could probably, I think either way, there's a few different options for us to do that.
Yeah, I think the idea, though, of having several different competing currencies is probably the best way to look at any sort of a situation like that. If you look back to the period in history, the United States did not have a central bank, which was directly after Andrew Jackson, who's my second favorite president. Sorry about the Indians, but he still is my second favorite. It was an unfortunate circumstance at the time. But he killed the second central bank, which was trying to kill him. There was an attempt on his life. There was banking interests that tried to kill Andrew Jackson. And then Davy Crockett and Andrew Jackson proceeded to almost murder the assassin in front of the White House, I believe it was. But as a result of that, they had what they called free banking or wildcat banking. And there was all this competition for currency, and like fortunes were made and fortunes were lost, but there was not this huge big cycle of booms and bust. There was a lot of little booms and bust, and I think it was like a 40 or 45 year period where the GDP, the gross national product, the productivity and the wealth of the United States grew faster than any other point in history. And that's when the yoke of central banking was completely removed. It was a free-for-all, and the market decided what was happening. So that was also we also had the anchor of gold at that point of the currency, which helped a lot, having that stable currency.
Okay.
So anyway, a little bit of history,
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
color.
Oh, okay. Do we want to move on to?
Yeah, let's move on.
We had some
Interesting,
other-
great subject. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I
Talk about it all
definitely
night.
want to learn more about Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I'm still in the shallow end.
I'm not good at math, so I'm very much.
You don't have to be good at math.
No, I'm just
I
saying.
just-
I'm in the shallow end with John.
What I was told today, one of my customers actually is a teacher at Liberty Harbor Academy,
Yeah.
and he told me that his daughter has a couple of them that she bought when they first came out, and they were a few dollars, and she's got a few of these, and he told me what these couple of them are worth today, and I said, I would like to have a couple of them.
Yeah.
So that's definitely an interesting concept.
One thing that about Bitcoin, if you're going to take them and use them, you need to take the time to figure out how to use the keys yourself with your client. There's an issue that because it's a little complicated, it's very easy to use an online service to manage your wallet, and a lot of people have been having their online services, which are a third party, get hacked
Okay.
for millions and millions of dollars. So if the information is accessible online, it's vulnerable. But if
Okay.
you keep control of your own keys, keep them on your computer, you can encrypt your wallet, use a really long password, and then get a USB drive and keep it on that, and zip it, and then use a long password on the password secured zip file,
Yeah.
and then you'll be okay.
Okay.
But, I mean, if you've got any sizable amount of money, you're probably not going to want to keep it all online in one service.
Right.
Or alternately, you could use several services. Don't keep all your eggs in one basket.
Okay.
So,
All right. No, that's
word
good
of caution.
advice. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Got to learn more about this.
It's a great topic.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, and if there's anybody that wants to call in, I haven't had any calls, but anybody does want to call in if they're watching and they have questions on this,
Yeah.
please.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about redress. That's the other issue that I've been delving into, along with and Gus Breton is. I can't tell you how much research he has done on this subject. He's probably going to be the.
It's just fun to do.
It's fun to
Great
do,
stuff.
and it's great.
And it's in the Constitution.
Right.
We have the right to redress, period, no exception.
Well, can
And
you
it's time for that to come back.
for
There you go.
the uninitiated, can you explain what redress is?
Redress is when you've been done wrong by the state. The state makes laws, and when those laws hurt people, the people have a right to approach the legislature and let them know that they've been harmed. And the function of this is to prevent further damage to the public, because
Yeah.
the public's in jeopardy, and somebody's been damaged, and somebody else. And there's petitions with thousands of names on them. There's petitions with one name. Dave was at the archives with me last week, 2 weeks ago, and we were looking at petitions, and one of them that I found was the governor wanted the congressional records from 1819, and he wanted hundreds of copies of different records.
Yeah.
And so he put a petition into the general court to secure those records. David was looking up a petition. Oh no, that's the one. That's the one.
yeah,
that
that
you
one
had
I was
found.
looking at. That was an interesting. I mean, it's like, why did he want second session for that year, and he wanted it to clerk, every,
Yeah.
you know,
He wanted to
rep,
secure
every
these
senator.
records and send them out to all the different legislators, the town clerks.
And
He wanted to put them on file.
Yeah.
What was interesting, though, is that immediately preceding that session of Congress, there was a banking crisis.
Okay.
Might have been connected. I don't know.
I think, well,
Yeah.
I think it was.
That's cool to be able to look at stuff like that, though, huh? To find
The
stuff like
archives
that. That's gotta be
are there
fascinating.
for us.
Yeah.
And it is fascinating.
Yeah.
Another petition where, it was an 1811 petition, I believe, where the volunteer firemen in Concord, they wanted to get exclusion from the militia. Whereas they were the only ones able to operate the fire engines, which I don't know what they had in 1811 for fire engines, but
Horse and buggy with a hose
they
on it.
wanted to have an exception to military service in the militia so that if there was a fire in Concord, they could handle it.
Yeah.
And so that was a petition. There's all sorts of different petitions, and the process is rather simple. Take a piece of paper, you write down what your redress is, what your issue is, or instructions. You might have instructions, so there's remonstrance petitions also. And you bring those to the general court clerk, currently Karen Wadsworth, and she will take those and submit them to the House for evaluation, for reading. And so you can instruct your legislature. It's Article 31 and 32 in the New Hampshire Constitution. And Article 31 says that the legislature shall assemble
Okay.
for the redress of public grievances and for making such laws as the public good may require. And that's to eliminate the jeopardy to the public. They
Yeah.
have to make laws to correct things that they've previously, because, supposedly this is, the redress is caused by the state, the
Okay.
damage.
Okay.
So that's the short of it.
So nowadays, people know about the legislature as enacting laws, right?
Yeah.
Having all these public hearings from the House to the Senate, Committee of Conference, the governor signs it, it's new law, right? We have 20 in the books. But you're saying that legislature constitutionally has other avenues and other things to do to take care of the people, including the remonstrance and the grievance
That's correct.
process.
Yeah, 'cause
What-
that's a mandate to take care of the people.
It's a
And to
mandate.
take care of the people that's been wronged by the legislation that's been passed previously.
What-
There's a mandate to meet and to assemble for that redress
What,
of
what,
public grievance.
what is remonstrance, by the way? That's not,
Remonstrance is giving a strong opinion about a particular thing.
okay.
One petition, for instance, I'm not sure where the town is, I can't remember the town, but they're on both sides of a river, like Manchester,
Mhm.
and they put a petition in to get a bridge, because they, strong opinion. Ed McFarland, who's in the studio with us tonight, he found a petition from 1951, which was against the 1% sales tax.
Huh.
And it was a roll, it was just a roll, it was a huge roll
Yeah.
petition. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So those are remonstrance petitions.
Okay.
Just strong opinions.
Okay.
Looked like it was on teletext.
Really?
Yeah, teletype papers. One huge continuous roll is probably about 100 feet long.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah,
Oh,
there were
that's
signatures
cool.
all over it too, like any place they could fit it in. They were
No
like,
kidding.
Oh yeah.
That's really cool.
Wow.
And that's
Wow.
in the redress, that's in the archive, state archive on Fruit Street, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Great place. People
Wow.
should go up there and check it out.
If you like history.
Well,
Yeah.
here's a
Fascinating.
good example of a petition. Last year, I think 2 years ago, the legislature passed a jury nullification statute. Well, the problem is even though that's on the books now, and a defense attorney can present that to the jury, these people still don't know anything about that.
Right.
They're not educated about jury nullification, what their responsibilities are, what their authority is in court. They have no idea.
Yeah.
And this has become a really critical issue because it's really the protection we have against government overreach. And without a good, solid foundation on jury nullification, Article 21 of our Constitution says that none but qualified jurors should sit. And how can they be qualified if they don't know what jury nullification is?
Right, and
so
no
we-
one's telling them. Yeah.
we put a petition on at www.nhredress.info a couple of days ago. That petition is specifically for jury nullification,
Yeah.
that it should be taught in high school. And if you go to UNH and you want to get subsidies to cover your tuition, you need to get a half a credit every year. That's not written in there, but that's something I'd recommend.
Sure.
You know, if you want an education in New Hampshire, then learn the New Hampshire Constitution and how it's used,
Right.
because it's the New Hampshire Bill of Rights. It's very important stuff.
And people take it for granted, I think, reflexively, how the Constitution affects them, whether it's, the state Constitution or the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah.
It's something most people probably don't ever even think about.
We all
take
feel
it for granted.
we all feel that people like John and Mark are there for us. We voted them in. There they are. And we're just going to let them do their thing, and we can go golfing.
Right.
And, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Everybody
Don't do
has
that.
to be involved.
And accountable.
Not
too.
to mention they need support.
Right.
And we need to be held accountable if any of us stray from what we've sworn to do through our oath of office, in Part 2, Article 84. We need to be brought back to that line and straightened out or removed if we violate our oath.
There's currently, John and I have been checking for at least 2 years on oath of office violations, and we have yet to find out if somebody violates their oath of office, whether it be a senator, a judge, or, it doesn't matter who it is. How do you get them out of their office? Nobody can answer the question. There's no process.
Well, can you expand on that? What do you mean when you say an oath of office violation? I mean, obviously, you mean someone violating their oath, but what would be an example of that? How do people do that?
Well, the Article 38 of our Constitution says that the people have a right to require of their lawgivers and magistrates an exact and constant adherence to the fundamental principles of the Constitution in both the formation and the execution of the laws.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if you have a Second Amendment issue, okay, and the judge rules totally against the fundamental principles of the Constitution, he's violated his oath of office.
Yeah.
And according to Article 35, he's only allowed to hold his position as a judge in good behavior. That's bad behavior. So how do you take them off their seat? How do you get rid of a bad judge? We've got no process.
Right.
And we also have that same problem with removing legislators. And to your question, Matt, we see people all the time in the legislature voting for laws that are on their surface unconstitutional.
Yeah.
And you'll hear people even speak out loud in committee saying, well, we'll get it passed, and if it later on if it goes to the courts and they find it unconstitutional, that's okay, but we need to get this done now.
Wow.
You hear that all the
To
time.
hear that, I mean, it's
Wow.
just because they in other words, they violate their oath regularly.
Regularly.
And
Right.
and so why do we take the oath? I mean, if
Right,
it's just a formality, everyone takes it, and I mean, it's clearly Part 2, Article 84, New Hampshire Constitution. You could read it, and
Here's another problem I'm going to present,
Yeah.
and that is you have somebody running for office, and they're promising the people of their district, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. All those things are unconstitutional. It's totally against the virtues and principles of Article 38. So they're pledging to violate their oath of office.
Yeah.
Before
That's
they
what
even
they're
vote.
doing. That's ridiculous. And
Right.
nobody even notices this. Nobody brings this up to them when they're running.
Right. Right.
It's a big taboo thing, and I think both parties are afraid of the problem.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I must add that I don't think you're being cynical. In fact, when it comes to politics, the way it really is, I don't think you can be too cynical.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really is.
but I think there's a way to control it, and that's bring us back to the fundamental principles of the Constitution and have laws written that are able to be tested through that process. And there are some clearly that are not constitutional. We know them when they pass. I mean, Affordable Care Act, for instance, is a big one that we just went through. Like last year, we had a stand your ground bill that passed 2 years ago, the last term. And it all came about from Ward Bird when he had his issue with stand your ground, and some things happened with the castle, extending the castle doctrine. Well, that passed, and the stand your ground became law. We had a legislator this time sponsor a bill to diminish our rights of self-defense, which is clear, Part 1, Article 2A in the New Hampshire Constitution, where every person has the right to protect themselves, their property, the state, and
Article 12 says that every member of society has a right to be protected by it. It's not just about self-defense.
Right.
You're supposed to be able to look out for other people.
that's right. And
Yeah.
and it's clearly that this legislation that was tabled in the Senate, but the fact is that they deliberated, they debated, they spoke on it, and they voted to diminish our rights to self-defense, which I think is a clear violation of their oath of office. So I sponsored a redress petition to remove these 189 legislators,
Yeah.
which, I mean, that's a pretty bold step. I mean, I don't think it's ever tried to be done before.
Right.
Maybe someone tried to do it to one. But this was clearly not a politically motivated issue. This wasn't a Democrat-Republican, even though I'm a Republican. This is about a violation of your oath of office. And if you clearly vote to diminish our rights of anything, of any of our Bill of Rights, I think you've violated your oath of office and you should be removed.
Well,
And
along those lines, Article 30 of the New Hampshire Constitution says that deliberation, debate, and speech are protected. That they cannot be the cause of any action in any court, except in the general court. But it doesn't say anything about your vote. If you the legislature can talk about doing nasty things to people all they want, but if once they vote on that thing and cross the line, now they're held accountable. And the accountability should be in the form of it's a breach of an oath of office. If you pledge, if you say, I swear to uphold my oath of office, I'll uphold the Constitution, whatever you're swearing to. If you don't do that, that's perjury. So you've perjured your oath of office. You've breached your oath of office.
Right.
And you're not protected by Article 30 because only your speech, debate, and deliberation is covered there.
Okay. But
So
not
There
the
is no
actual vote.
protection for your vote.
Okay.
You'll be tossed away in the dungeon if you do that in a court. If you violate your oath in a court,
Right.
and are found guilty of perjury in there. But for some reason, every other oath doesn't seem to hold up to that same standard. And Article 30 talking about, I mean, it's the freedom of deliberation, speech, and debate in either house of the legislature is so essential to the rights of the people. That's a big deal what that says.
Right.
It's so essential that it cannot be the foundation of any action, complaint, prosecution, any court or place whatsoever. So, I mean, you can talk and you can speak and debate and argue and try to sway people to come to your side and do whatever it takes pretty much, short of bribing, but you can do whatever you got to do to speak on that issue.
Right. Right.
But, because bribery is another,
We know that never
that's
happens.
another, no, it doesn't happen.
Well, I was going to say, something I was reading, trying to find the looking for the opposing opinion of Bitcoin. It's like,
Yeah.
Bitcoin will be legitimized when you can use it to pay for prostitution and bribe politicians. So,
Well,
Wait a minute, I take offense to that because, as a matter of fact, I did accept Bitcoin contributions to my campaign
well, that
last
was a
year.
contribution.
That was it.
I thought you were going somewhere else with that for a second. I was like, Mark, no.
Yeah, imagine
We're live.
when lobbyists get a hold of that concept.
It's a joke, Paul.
When lobbyists get a hold of that concept to
Yeah.
to influence, not influence, but necessarily just
Well,
donate to
yeah.
campaigns for senators, and like
Influence is a good word.
So
with bitcoins.
Let me play devil's advocate for a moment with this redress. Most people out there would say, well, that's the purpose of elections, is to get out the people, to vote out the folks who have violated
Right.
their office. And
Yes.
that sounds good in theory, I guess, but does it really work that way? And is there still a need for a redress?
Well, take a senator. They're in for 6 years. They get in there, they violate their oath of office, vote for the Patriot Act or the NDAA, something like that. Clear violation. Those senators, those U.S. senators, are elected by people in New Hampshire, and our Constitution says that our lawgivers, which they are held to the same standard as you guys are in the House. So, if they violate their oath of office and you can remove them for doing so, then how fast can you get somebody reasonable in there? Everybody's concentrating on who we're going to run. We're going to run our guy next.
Right.
It's going to be our turn to plunder the system. You know what? There's not going to be any plundering if everybody's held to the same standard.
Yeah.
And if you can take somebody out of their office, off their seat, within a month or two, of them violating their oath, they might only be a year into their 6-year term. And now you got somebody new for 5 years.
Yeah.
In Colorado, they removed 2 senators. And I just got word from Terry Dodd today, he's a friend of mine in California, that the 3rd senator they're going after resigned in order to open up the position only to another Democrat.
Ah.
Otherwise, it would have been open to anybody.
Really?
So, yeah. And so that's a victory.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a victory. And,
Yeah.
and I believe that Article 38 is very clear. It's a job description. And it's our recall provisions, I've looked at them, they're kind of I'd have to look at them with somebody else.
Has
but
it
they're
ever been
kinda
done
weak.
in New Hampshire?
doesn't have a good recall.
But Article 38, I believe, is a recall provision.
Okay.
It's a job
It's a job
description.
description.
We
That's
have
all
a
it is.
right to require these things. So
Yeah.
if they step over the line, we have that they've violated their oath of
Right to
office.
require, we just need to require. And,
Yeah.
Well, the people need to require.
And how do we require?
Educate the people to know that they have the right to require, because most people figure, well, let's just wait till the next election and get them out. You hear that all the time.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
Congress, 2 years. State Senate, House, legislators, 2 years. Governor, 2 years. I mean, a lot of damage can be done. And you see elected officials, they'll do it once, they'll do it again. You're sitting there going, it's like sitting in a ring with your hands tied behind your back, just getting punched in the stomach till the bell rings.
Mhm.
And you're going, we've got to stop this fight somehow. Throwing the
I'd like
Right.
to see a recall, and every vote that they place in every bill also gets recalled with them. So that
Absolutely.
vote would be null and void.
Hmm.
So if there was something unconstitutional that got put on the books as a result of a vote, it was really close, you yank them, well, guess what? That right there reverse. So if you had, how many people do you need to recall so that we can rectify this problem? We need 10. All right, who voted for it? Get those 10 out. You
Right.
know? That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Dan,
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be wonderful, but the problem is that there's a lot of folks on the other side of that, sitting on the sidelines, watching this, enjoying what's going on. They're profiting. They're
Right.
thriving. from
Somebody
what's-
always is,
from
yeah.
that system.
Who
That
don't
is,
know? Who
right?
benefits?
So so they're going to come out and they'll. The opposition is huge on this. What you think is right and should be and should work, and certainly isn't the way, because people are.
It'd be interesting to find out just how many were opposed to New Hampshire citizens exercising the right of redress. Might make an interesting campaign issue.
I doubt if any. Most people don't know what that is. Well, there's
Right.
certainly some, but most people. I say the word redress to, they never heard the word redress.
Well, I mean, in their defense, they really haven't needed to be worried about it until probably the past, 20, 30 years.
It's one of their Bill of Rights, though, Dave. And I think
Yeah.
everybody knows the Second Amendment. Everybody can kind of say that one.
Yeah.
But
Well, and if you don't exercise it like a muscle, it'll atrophy. So.
right. And we have a whole bunch of bills of rights that go unnoticed, and they've been unnoticed for hundreds of years. Some of these things.
What is the process or the mechanism if outside of redress, if a law is passed in the state of New Hampshire that you might feel is unconstitutional? How do you get that to the New Hampshire Supreme Court?
Well, first of all, you'd have to be arrested for this particular thing,
Okay.
and then you would
And then challenge it.
in court. You would lose.
Right,
And
right. The system protects itself.
And
So,
then,
And while you're in jail,
and while you're in jail, you appeal.
so outside of redress, there really is no good option.
Well, that works on there's plenty of things that happen that are good in court.
Yeah.
I can't think of any, but I'm sure there is.
Right.
And there's lots of case law that has corrected things throughout the years.
Sure.
But there's absolutely nothing more expedient than one man going to the legislature, filing a petition, and bringing to the attention of the general court, here's an issue that you guys overlooked when you passed this law.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And the legislature shall assemble for the redress of public grievances. We've got the Stand Your Ground petition, for instance, has got over 600 signatures of people that agree with the petition. It's online. If you go to www.nhredress.info, you can see all the different petitions. I'll read them off. There's jury nullification. There's a petition for license plate readers.
To ban them or to prevent them, right?
To prevent-
prohibit them in the state.
Yep, to prohibit them. Wrongful foreclosures, people getting nailed by the banks. The
That's a
courts-
hot issue. Yeah.
Well, the UCC clearly says that when somebody is being foreclosed on, that they have the right to see the original documents.
Right.
The courts are not enforcing that. That's a New Hampshire law,
Yeah.
and they're not doing that.
Yeah.
You got GMO labeling. What are we eating? We have no idea.
Right.
I've been called a communist for writing a GMO petition.
Right.
I just want to know what I'm eating.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to know it's safe. There's the toll booths, in Merrimack. You have exit tolls. You have Janine Notter and Lynette Peterson are sponsoring this petition
Yeah.
to get rid of some of those toll booths, because the people who live there, no matter
Oh,
what
yeah.
access they take to the highway, they're getting nailed every
Oh, yeah,
time.
yeah.
Okay, nullify Obamacare, repeal Common Core, stand your ground.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are all at the website, and there's a lot of signatures, a lot of people that are realizing this. And really, the reason I started writing these is I want to bring attention to our Constitution.
Yeah.
John and I were sitting at Theo's maybe 2 months ago, middle of the afternoon, grabbing a sandwich, and there's a guy sitting next to us watching Obamacare, and he's complaining about it, and he's not a very happy camper. And I said, well, which provision of the New Hampshire Constitution do you think that violates? And he had this totally blank stare.
Yeah.
No idea we even had a Constitution.
Right.
That's ridiculous. I graduated from West High School in 1982. I didn't know there was a Constitution until 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous that
Yeah.
we're not teaching our own Constitution in our schools.
I agree. I absolutely agree. What's the most popular of these in terms of support? Is it Stand Your Ground?
Well, stand your ground because it was April 9th.
Yeah.
So you know,
Okay.
April 9th it was filed
So
this year.
that had a big
there
head
was-
start.
Yeah, it had a head start.
I would think the wrongful foreclosure would. I mean, that's like I said, that's a hot issue.
It's a hot issue if
Yeah.
you're in a wrongful foreclosure.
Yeah.
If say Obamacare is a hot issue. If
Yeah.
so I guess we all have our own. What's your hot issue? What's your hot issue? What's yours? What's the people's hot issue? What do you want? What do
Yeah.
you want your government to fix for you?
What
that
we've
they've
been
done-
talking
that
about
they've
here
damaged?
tonight, okay?
We got to wrap up in a second, guys. Just so you know, we got
Yeah.
a minute or two. No, you can finish your thought, guys.
Well, no state shall make anything, two separate words, but gold and silver coin a tender and payment of debt.
Yeah.
That's a redress petition. The IRS right now is putting liens on people's property at the county recorder's office. Now, that legal tender is not legal tender. It's not redeemable in gold and silver coin. Therefore, they're violating this provision of the U.S. Constitution by putting those liens in. The county recorder is actually the one violating the Constitution because she's
Okay.
allowing a lien to go into something that's not based on gold and silver coin.
Right.
And the word tender itself is an offer. It's an offer without acceptance yet. I mean, a tender is an offer.
Yeah.
It's not payment. It's not.
You have veterans. I think veterans should get some kind of reduced rent somehow.
I
free,
agree.
but I mean, there's different
Well, they
conditions.
do get tax breaks in a number of towns.
Well, there's different places that want to put up. It's something I'm looking into.
Yeah.
I'm looking for more information on that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of petitions that need to be written.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
We should all.
This is the fastest way to change what needs to be changed.
Right.
Veterans should be getting tax breaks, but we should all be getting tax breaks.
Like-
We need towns to be more efficient
We
with the
be-
money that they.
We believe these are
If we had a
constituents.
complementary currency, you can pay those taxes with that money,
That's right.
right?
We gotta wrap
3
up.
minutes left, gentlemen.
We gotta. Yeah. Well, not even really, but
Okay.
we gotta. 3 minutes till the next show comes in. So.
Okay.
So Dave Narby, Mark Warden, Gus Breton, and of course the Honorable John Heichel.
And Mark Warden's honorable too. He's,
Oh yes, and Mark
he's right
Warden is
there with us.
honorable.
He's fighting in the trenches with us.
Yes.
Mark Warden, what's your business?
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Okay.
Perfect.
Come buy a house with Bitcoin.
Gus, your
I can-
website that you want everybody to go to and read and sign petitions?
www.nhredress.info.
Dave, want to plug something?
Read your Constitution.
Okay. Uptown Auto Repair, Penardville, 578 next to Dunkin' Donuts. And thanks. It's always a great night being here.
Absolutely great to see all of you. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next week. Bye.